One beautiful thing about the ISO standard is the way it is structured. I mean, it makes sense to have what we call the process approach. When we are talking about the PDCA, the plan, the do, the check, and the act. And using these 4 words as a means to structure the standard makes so much sense. That is why I do say that the ISO standard is one of the best. Look at that technique: plan, do, check, act. And I went further to make it easier for my students who come through my class to understand. And I'm going to give you that strategy that I use to drive understanding. I'll give you for free, even though you don't come to my classes. Most times we add value in various ways. If you go through our training sessions, if you go through our feedback session, our review session on Google Review, you will see the series of feedbacks that our delegate gives. And one thing keeps coming when they give feedback: easy to understand. So we use the principle of 3-2-1-1. I want you to say after me: 3-2-1-1. Say it, don't be scared. 3-2-1-1. What do I mean by 3-2-1-1? We already know the PDCA: plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act. We know that already. 3-2-1-1 means that, and that is 3-2-1-1 while use principle. If I hear it anywhere that anybody use it without taking permission on the lighter mode. So 3-2-1-1 means that 3 clauses in the plan phase, 2 clauses in the do phase, and 1 clause in the check phase, and 1 clause in the act phase. There are so many sub clauses, but I'm going to just address the clauses. When you say PDCA is a process approach, even in our personal lives, we apply it. I've heard about this a long time ago. In the PDCA, the plan, do, check are 3-2-1-1. The 3 means the plan phase. In the ISO standard, the plan phase has 3 clauses: clause 4, 5, and 6. Context of the organization. That is where it starts from. What is the organization about? What are the internal and external issues? What are they into? Because that is what will define the scope of the organization. What are the issues, internal and externally, with the organization? I don't want to go into deep analysis. The various processes, activities, and the issues that they can come up with internally in the organization as an organization with what they have already, and externally with what they have little or no control over. Then interested parties, who are the interested parties, their needs and expectations. Then this will define the scope, and from the scope you now have an elaborate process. That is clause 4. Then you now have clause 5 that talks about leadership. Then for 45001 has workers' participation. Leadership is very, very important, because after you have determined your context, it's the context that will tell us the kind of leadership that you will have. The kind of leadership, the kind of roles and responsibilities that you have in an aviation company will be different from that you will be looking out for in oil and gas, different from that you'll be looking out for in construction. That is why I believe that context comes first and leadership comes, because the leadership that will actually pivot the affairs of all what the standard is all about. Then 5.1, leadership, expression of your leadership, you will do this, blah, blah, blah. The 5.2 now tells us, okay, you have said it in 5.1, now put it in writing, a statement of your policy. 5.2 talks about that. Then 5.3 now go ahead to, okay, you say you are going to do this. How do you want to achieve it? You need people to work with you. You are the human resources, roles and responsibilities. Have you defined their role and responsibilities? Then 5.4 now talks about workers' participation. From 5, we now have clause 6 that talks about planning. 6.1, action to address risks and opportunities. From your clause 4.1 and 4.2, there are risks that will have been identified there from the internal and external issues that can be identified. I mean to say, then from there you look at what are the various risks that will come up from interested parties, the various risks that could come up from the internal and external issues that could affect the management system, either for quality or health and safety or environmental, or for food safety or whatever. Then 6.2 now talks about the objective that you want to set, because that's what gives you the real direction. The objective, you want to achieve this, you want to achieve this, you want to achieve this. You set your SMART objectives. Then for ISO 9001 has planning action or something like that. Yeah, planning action. Then you now have, that is the 3 clauses in the plan. We said context of the organization, leadership, then planning. Then for the do phase, the do phase now has 2. Like I said in my previous video, some put support under planning, but I put it, based on what I've seen more of the time, under do support. Then clause 8, do is clause 7, support. Then 8 is operation, which is clause 8. Then the support talks about RCACD. I've spoken about that before in my previous video. Then the do now talks about operational planning and control. For 9001, it has more details talking about customers communication, design and development, non-conforming product, provision of services, product and services, and so many other requirements that has to do with ensuring that the right product, the right services is being delivered, and there are no frictions in between. Then for 2001 and 5001, 8.1 talks about operational planning and control, which is similar to 9001. But for 8.2, it talks about emergency response and preparedness. That is for 14001 and 45001. Then you now have for 9001 more detail, like I said the other time. Then you now have your performance evaluation, which is check plus 9 performance evaluation, the performance of what you have done so far. How are you performing? No, like I said, when I related it with our normal life. So performance evaluation is more detailed like that. Very detailed, talking about the regular ones, which is the MMAE, monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. 9.1, monitoring, measurement, the regular monitoring that you do, the regular evaluation that you do. The 9.2 now talks about internal audit, which is less frequent, maybe quarterly or yearly or twice a year. Then 9.3 now talks about management review that happens once in a year, or depending on the structure, context, complexity of the organization. Then that will now give rise to clause 10, improvement. What are those things? What are the gaps that we identified in our management review, in our internal audit, in our regular monitoring? What are those things that we need to improve on? How can we get better in what we do? So it's very straightforward, and it can be applied to any knowledge area, any principle, even in project management. It's applicable anywhere. So I love the PDCA approach. I love the ISO standard, and I can't do more than to employ you to use this approach in anything you are doing. It gives clarity and makes your work easier. See you in the next video.